Now, do you see that hole? Well, that hole and one just like it on the other side of the road cost £37,000 to complete. It took 5 vans, 2 men in each, for a single apprentice to jump down into the hole, supervised of course, and join 3 wires. Is it me? Seriously, is it me? Maybe it's because I'm a Londoner that I love Norfolk so. Okay, boys and girls, it's a week before Christmas, and today we're going to have a look at West Runton and Beeston Bump, a winter's look. But we will be coming back in the springtime, the summer, and the autumn so that you can see how the seasons change everything that you're looking at. Here comes our ride, one of Stadler's finest, to wing us all the way to Beeston Bump. In the last video, I was telling you about a bit of bad luck I had on the races, but not as much bad luck as my neighbour recently. He had to have a kidney transplant. Guess what? They gave him a kidney of a bedwetter. A quick whiz for the 30-minute journey. Here we are then at West Runton Station, or station. People in Norfolk don't call it West Runton, they just call it Runton. The unpaid volunteers who look after this pretty little station have won several major awards over the years. This is a single branch line track out of Cromer, and in the railway world it's known as bi-directional, but the slang for that amongst the railway world is bisexual. When I was young, these ramps weren't here. All you had was a set of steps that run down from the side of the overbridge at the top. The big white building you can see over there in the distance is the Links, called the Links. It's a big golf course and country club. You can look it up online, they've got their own website. You're just beginning to see now why this area is such a huge magnet for holiday makers during the season. Static van dwellers, which we call box dwellers, campers, campsites, all that sort of thing, masses of them. Touring vans, and yes, we call touring vans shed draggers. Sorry about that. This little shot shows how great was the Dutch influence in building this village. So as you can see, there's not really very much to the village centre, just a big petrol station and a few little shops. But back in the 70s, every Friday night, this place used to really thump. Hundreds and hundreds of people used to visit here because it was the site of a major music venue. All the major bands you can think of played here every Friday night. The Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Sex Pistols, just to name but a few. I can hear you cry out. Did you come here, Davey? Oh yeah, I did. Now, back then, I was known as a babe magnet. A babe magnet. Not today, of course, because most of the bits that I had in the 70s have all fallen off now. But back then, I didn't have any difficulty in attracting girls of the opposite sex. And of course, on the summer nights, we used to sleep on the beach. And other things, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to show you the beach today because it's in the opposite direction in the way that we want to go, but we will do it in later videos. I've got fond memories of West Runton. I first came here on holiday when I was 3 years old, and that was probably the start of my love affair with Norfolk. 3 adults and a small baby in a caravan about the size of an ostrich egg. And my dad weighs 16 stone and my gran weren't much far behind him. Elderly woman goes to a funeral parlour to get her husband buried, and she speaks to the director and she says the only one thing is he wanted to be buried in a black suit, and the trouble is he's only got a blue suit. Can you do anything? And the funeral director says, no, I'm sorry madam, you know, he gets buried in what he gets buried in. Oh okay, she says. So she comes back a week later to see the old boy in the open casket, and to her surprise, he's wearing a black suit. So she says to the funeral director, he's got a black suit on. And he went, yeah, what a bit of luck. A couple of days after you come in, another guy died, and his request was that he be buried in a blue suit. So she said, well, that's marvellous. She said, what a service you provide. And he said, yeah, all I had to do was swap the heads. Now, locally, a couple of weeks ago, an old boy died. He was an old man. He'd had a good life, but he was a bit of a character. At the church service, which went swimmingly because these things do, as they were leaving the church and carrying the coffin outside, the vicar said, do be careful, it's slippery. And a voice rang out, yeah, vicar, but not as slippery as what's him inside that coffin. Now, as we walk up this pretty little lane to the bump, I'll talk to you a little bit more about 60s television and what it was like for us as kids. Now, our big thing at the time was what the Anderson family used to produce, Jerry Anderson, and he used to produce Thunderbirds. Now, you've all heard of Thunderbirds, but not many people know what came before it. There was Stingray, and the lovely Marina, and Supercar. A lot of people have never heard of those. Now, at the same time, of course, we started to get lots of stuff from over the pond, the American stuff, the Cowboys, Roy Rogers and all that sort of thing. But also, we had other stuff like Champion, the Wonder Horse, and Flipper, about a dolphin. It's all incredibly tame and childlike, isn't it, compared with what the kids see today. As we move into the 60s with television, you can see the great consumerism machine beginning to gear itself up. On YouTube, if you key in 60s soap operas or even sitcoms, anything like that, you will see product placement really starting to grow. You can have a bit of fun with it. If you look at some of these old 60s sitcoms and other bits and pieces, you can see where the actors actually turn the tin or the bottle to make sure that the label is facing the camera. It can be quite funny. Now, this field that we're coming up to, going to have a look at, is usually full of sheep throughout the summer, and they're quite inquisitive animals. They come up and check out who's invading their space. And here, of course, is our first glimpse of the bump. So TV started to split into two genres, Black Beauty for the girls and Roy Rogers for the boys. Both of them sitting on horses. So there you are, sitting in your tin tub in front of an open fire. The tub had been filled with 37 kettles of hot water cooked on the stove, watching television. Dad, can I have a black thoroughbred stallion? I'll keep it in the garden, I'll look after it, I promise you. Davy, says me mum, where did you get so arrogant? Where did you get your arrogance training from? You never got it from me or your dad. Well, mum, we got it from this. Now, I would have played you the music to go with these images, but everything on YouTube is copyright protected, and I'm a tight arse, remember, so I'm not paying the licence fees. But if you want to listen to the music, it's all on YouTube. Now, you see these gates that we're coming up to a couple of years ago, they were made of wood, but Network Rail decided they're going to replace them with these new modern ones. Within a day or two, the complaints started to roll in about the noise they made when they shut. Now, is it me? Is it really just me? You would have thought that someone had noticed the bloody great bangs when they shut when they were installing them, wouldn't you? This then is Beeston Common, which is at the base of Beeston Bump, which you're going to see in a minute. In the first edit of this particular video, I cut out a lot of the next bit because it's just me walking up to the base of the bump. But after reflecting on it, I thought, well, you might actually like that long walk. So I've changed it and I've left it in. So it's unedited. It's in its raw state with images of my fingers and all sorts of things. But I thought you might actually enjoy it. Now, Beeston Common is of course very popular with the locals who have dogs, an ideal place to walk their dog. But the unusual thing about the locals at Beeston Common is they haven't got this habit of tying up their dog shit in little plastic bags and hanging it in bushes, which appears to be the common practice everywhere else, especially in Wroxham. Round here, you just don't see it. Now, these people fall into two categories. There is the person who is walking their dog on a long walk, and they leave the shit bag hanging and then pick it up on their way home. I get that, I understand it. But there is another group of people, the majority, that seem to think hanging a bag of dog shit in the bushes or trees, sometimes they throw them, is actually making the tree or bush look more attractive. Now, the local authorities all provide specialist bins for dog shit, but my problem is, why don't these people use it? What's going on in their brains at the time? And are they mentally responsible enough to actually keep a dog? Now, as you all know, I'm a litter picker, and I have got no problem with picking up these little bags of dog shit and putting them in my bin if they are left at the side of the path. I really don't mind, seriously. But stop throwing them into the fucking trees. Now, I'm getting way too old to go clambering around in bushes and climbing trees to get these dog shit bags out. But the same thing applies to litter. All you got to do is put it at the side of the path. People like me will pick it up. If you don't have the mental capability of putting it in a bin, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You're a functioning human being. But stop throwing it into the bushes. We have to climb in there to get it out. Okay, I know I've used the long walk to have a rant. Well, it's my right, isn't it? Now, here on the common, you've got to be really observant. You've got to really keep your eyes open, because what you're looking for is a great big black shaggy dog. It's got two red eyes, or one single red eye, in the middle of its forehead, and it's big, really big. Now, you don't want to see this dog really, because if you see it in person, it's the portent of death, and his name is Shuck, or Black Shuck. Now, personally, I'm not bothered about bumping into old Shucky. He's just a black dog. No, I'm more worried about something far more frightening, and that is stepping in one of his shits. Now, you take care, Davy. You don't want to be treading in any of that old Shuck shite now, do you? Shuck shite? That's a good name, isn't it? I think I could call a new car Shuck shite. Here comes a new Ford Shuck shite, Mark 1. So while we're walking then, the next part of your pronunciation education, and it's the I sound, like or might. It's pronounced in Norfolk O-I, oi. That's the sound that you're trying to make, so it's like, might, and so on. So, a bit of dialect for you. Railway, railway. Davy, are you going on the railway to London? 40 or 50 years ago, in Norfolk, there were expressions that were used quite frequently that you don't hear anymore in modern Norfolk. I'm going to show you or tell you some of these things as we go. And the first one is, that's a lie. Now, you heard this all the time. When somebody said something, they would say, that's a lie. Another one would be, my beauty. My beauty. How you getting on, my beauty? One or two of the local coastal villages here adopt the dialect into their road signs. I think that's marvellous, trying to keep the language alive. So Weybourne, pronounced Webburn, get it right, Webburn, so that's 3 miles up the coast here. They've got road signs that say, "Slow you down, boy." In my imagination, which is weird, as you know, I can imagine road signs from 50 years ago saying the same thing in East London, and they would just say, "Slow down," and then a 4-letter word beginning with C and ending in T. So here we are then, we're coming up to the base of the bump. Now, on a serious note, if you are really elderly or suffer from asthma or any of the other chest infections, I would recommend that you don't attempt this climb. It is deceptively easy, and I can assure you it isn't. So boys and girls, we're coming towards the end now of our Beeston Bump visit. I do hope you've enjoyed it. This video has been a lot longer than I would normally make, to sort of test you out a little bit really. You'll tell me in the comments whether it was too long or you switched off halfway through or whatever. Normally I'll stick to 10 minutes, but I thought I'll have a go at nearly half an hour to see what happens. I'll spare you the sounds of me gasping and wheezing like some asthmatic as I make the climb up there. I am 75 and not as springly as I used to be. Springly? Is that an actual word? When I get to the top of the bump and I'll do a little bit of panning around so you can see the view, I'll be quiet for the last few scenes so that you can take it in without my voice rabbiting on. The correct expression to shut me up is, "Leave it up, Davey." So, I get an awful lot of things just walking up and down. See ya.